Howdy, my dear viewers. Today we are embarking on another journey of analyzing shows together. And this time we are talking about Euphoria. Oh man, this will be quite a ride. I have mixed feelings about the show and debated if I should even make this video. So much has already been said, and all the creators that covered the show did an outstanding job. But what made me consider covering Euphoria on my channel was a recent discussion I had with one of my close friends. She told me that she preferred Season 2 over Season 1. She thought that Season 1 was boring and Season 2 entertained her much more, which I disagreed with. And you will hear my take on why that is so in this video. I decided to express my thoughts because Euphoria had such a big impact on a lot of people, including myself. And I wanted to cover the things that Euphoria did well as to learn from the mistakes it made. So I was determined to analyze the show to form a final opinion and see if Season 3 would be able to fix the mess that the show has become after Season 2 came out. And also to share with you the alleged reason why Season 2 didn't make any sense, which I somehow only found out about recently. Yeah, I might be quite late to the party. And trust me, if that theory is true, then everything makes total sense. And you see that Season 2 could have been quite good. Obviously, I have to mention that like in any of my reviews, there will be spoilers ahead. And although I have a lot of criticism for the show, I would recommend to watch it before you continue watching this video. Now that we got this out of the way, let's jump right in. Euphoria came out in 2019 and instantly caught the attention of many. Season 1 of Euphoria was nothing short of groundbreaking. It gripped audiences with its controversial portrayal of teenage life, tackling complex issues like addiction, identity, sexuality, and mental health. It had many characters with different personalities and stories that unfolded at the same time and were shown to us through the perspective of the main character, Rue. It was unique, visually stunning, and shocking enough for everybody to start obsessing over it online. Quite a few things worked well in Season 1. The character arcs were well written, with most characters having depth and purpose. The point of this season was to explore the complex inner struggles of the main cast. Rue's struggle with addiction and mental health, Jules' exploration of her identity and sexuality, and the ensemble cast dynamics. All of it contributed to a good first season. The cinematography and visual style also played a significant role in Season 1's success. The neon-soaked aesthetic, inventive camera work, and the mesmerizing soundtrack created a unique viewing experience. At times, it seemed like a very well-curated Pinterest board. God, this show looks so good. I don't think that anyone would argue that Sam Levinson definitely has a vision for aesthetic shots and artistic lighting. Some scenes were so mesmerizing I couldn't look away. They were captivating, creative, and surely one of the best things about the show. Even though the show had noticeable problems since the very beginning, its viewers were ready to overlook them because it had this attracting aesthetic, including yours truly. This show brought me an immense amount of inspiration, and it felt more progressive than a lot of shows we saw on screen at the time. It tackled the issues that I resonated with, and like many others, I got hooked and became a fan that would defend the show when anyone would criticize it in my presence. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. After watching Season 2, it became evident that Levinson decided to amp up the shock value. Scenes that were more or less realistic in Season 1 now seemed over-exaggerated for the sake of shocking the viewer, and it's at the expense of a cohesive narrative. It's apparent that including as many plot twists as possible became precedent over character development and storytelling. Instead of deepening our understanding of the characters, we're bombarded with gratuitous scenes that feel disconnected from the story. Realistically, season 2 doesn't even have a story. And all the storylines that have been set up this season never got a conclusion and evidently led nowhere. Also, the characters that were somewhat interesting in the first season became mere shadows of their former selves. Some even became similar to cartoon characters or were completely forgotten about. The show that focused on serious issues in the past now became fixated on love triangles that made no sense and really started to prioritize making scenes for the sake of being edgy, with completely cringy dialogue instead of actually telling a coherent story. If season 1 still had some substance that helped out the flawed writing and still kept the image of the show together, season 2 definitely lost me. I never enjoy overly criticizing any type of creators, and certainly would never say that Euphoria is a bad show that has nothing good to offer to its viewers. It is an incredible inspiration for creators to get out of their comfort zone and to start exploring more unique and creative camera movements, captivating shots, and phenomenal lighting. It tries to tell important stories and succeeds to a degree. The acting, set design, hair and makeup, and of course the lighting is incredible. The visual part is definitely what makes you want to keep watching the most. However, there comes a point where no matter how pretty the show looks, it becomes impossible to close your eyes on the biggest problem of Euphoria, which is bad writing. So, let's talk about it. At the beginning of season 2, we expect to explore the topics that were prominent in season 1 and were left unfinished. Back in season 1 finale, Rue has relapsed after Jules left her to run away to the city. They were planning to leave town together. However, Rue changed her mind last minute and decided to stay. Jules, on the contrary, decided to go anyway because she was trying to escape all the problems that were haunting her. This event shattered Rue and made her relapse because the only reason she was sober was Jules. We got to witness Cassie make a life-changing decision that would have left an impact on her, which I personally was expecting to see in season 2. Kat finally got together with Ethan, and it seemed like her life was about to make a turn for the better. Maddie found Cal's disc, and it was intriguing to find out what she's going to decide to do with it. Nate had a mental breakdown after a confrontation with his dad and showed how much Cal actually messed him up. And Fesco had to deal with the mess that Nate made. So evidently, the show had some interesting stories to explore and showcase the emotional impact on the characters after the events of season 1, and how the choices the characters made had consequences and would impact their journey in season 2. So, do you think we got that? Let me tell you that I enjoyed the first part of the first episode quite a bit. I love how the show finally gave us some backstory about Fesco, Ashtray, and how badass their grandma used to be. After the release of season 1, everybody wanted to get more context about certain characters, like Fesco, Lexi, and Cal, and I'm very glad that we got that this season. Unfortunately, in the light of recent passing of Angus Cloud, the story of Fesco will probably end there, and we won't see more of his great performance in season 3. He was a wonderful actor that brought so much to the show, and it is difficult to believe that it was his first ever acting job. Rest in peace, Angus Cloud. Now, going back to the story. After such a splendid introduction to season 2, the show quickly does a complete 180 and starts creating bizarre storylines and uses the most overused plotline in teen dramas: the love triangle. And they did it twice. We witness 2 coexisting love triangles in one season. The first one includes Maddie, Cassie, and Nate. And the second one, Jules, Rue, and Elliot. And let me stop here for a second and just say something that I can't ignore anymore. What really bothers me this season is this guy. Like, who are you? Elliot is a part of the show since the very beginning of the season. However, we barely know anything about him. We know he uses substances, and that's the main reason they bond with Rue. He writes music, which allows him to indulge in his addiction. We see his sister or aunt or roommate in one scene and know that he has a crush on Jules and Rue. In a show where the main focus is not the story, but the characters and the struggles they face, the inclusion of Elliot gave us nothing. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind that Dominic Fike joined the cast. He's a nice presence to have and can be quite fun at times. But dude, we need context and backstory to get to know the character, not a full Dominic Fike concert in the last episode of the season. Man, even Rue was struggling to sit through the song. No matter how much Dominic tries to bring charisma to his character, most times than not, it falls flat because of the abysmal script he has to work with. His lines are so cringy at times, it legit gave me secondhand embarrassment. With the ending of season 2, I am still in the dark about who Elliot is and why the creators thought it was necessary to add him to the story and not even try to make him anything but just a background character with some lines, and refuse to give him a personality so the viewers could at least form some sort of connection with him. I truly hope that we will get more information about his character in season 3, because I truly want to know what is his purpose in this story and why we spend multiple episodes watching him do not much of anything instead of developing McKay's character further. Oh yeah, almost forgot to mention, McKay was barely in the second season. More specifically, he was in 2 minutes of the first episode, and then he vanished completely. It was quite odd not to have his presence this season, especially because he was such a big part of the show in season 1. He even had his own episode. His character was telling a story that a lot of people could relate to, and I was really interested to see where the writers were going to take it. Well, I guess nowhere. All right, this is where we get into the territory that really makes me feel uneasy. Kat was a very important character in season 1 that was telling an intriguing and quite sad story. And although the message that the writers were trying to portray was misread by some younger members of the audience, I think they really had a lot of potential with her character in season 2. However, allegedly, Sam decided to go with the most unnecessary storyline for Kat's character, which Barbie Ferreira, the actress that plays Kat, did not agree with. There were speculations about the possibility of an ED story for her character, which Barbie refused to do. It is said that, allegedly, this led to a disagreement between Barbie and Sam, and then this impacted the amount of screen time she got in season 2. All right, now I will tell you what I think about it. Again, this is just my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. And if you disagree, you can always let me know your take on this in the comments. I think that using the ED story for Kat was the most lazy and outdated possibility out of the many. This would be unfair to her character and would try to define her by her weight, trying to reinforce the belief that this is all she can ever be, the bigger friend. I am so tired of the trope that all bigger people must want to be skinny, and therefore they should be the characters that should be assigned ED storylines. Again, it's not like bigger people do not deal with EDs, it's just there's so many more possibilities for her character without this storyline. I am tired of the reinforcement of the idea that if you're not as skinny as the others, you have to fix it. Who the hell cares what size you are? If you are healthy and happy, this shouldn't bother anyone because it is none of their business. People have depth and complexity and more important shit they can think about, for crying out loud. Plus size characters aren't just that. Let's stop telling the same story over and over again and pushing this agenda onto younger generations, teaching them that you can't be happy in the size that you are if the society deems it unappealing. I think they could have explored the implications of the career that she chose to pursue while still being underage and what impact that can leave on somebody so young. Because that is the reason this story was told in the first place. Being an underage sex worker is not empowering and can lead to very dangerous situations, especially for her because she is still a teenager. If Barbie and Sam actually had a disagreement, I truly don't understand why they couldn't write a different story for her character for season 2. It's not like Kat can have only one storyline. There are so many possibilities for this character. Kat could have added a lot to the second season, but her story will be left unfinished because Barbie Ferreira left the show and won't return for season 3. So the last we see of Kat will forever be her telling her boyfriend that she has a terminal illness and then gaslighting him into breaking up with her. Now, let's talk about something that I'm actually quite happy about, and that is Cal's storyline in season 2. He is one of the characters that I actually enjoyed watching this season. I just love where they took this character. His trope is fascinating to see, and I believe that they handled it quite well. So Cal has been living in the closet his entire life, and without knowing it, messed up his son in the process. This season, we see more of his backstory and how the circumstances unfolded in a way that required for him to make a life-changing decision before he was ready. The character that was demonized in season 1 now has layers and a backstory that makes us sympathize with him. It doesn't excuse his behavior and the fact that he traumatized Nate and made him into the asshole that he is now. But at least now, we get why. He wasn't ready, he was afraid, and he has been regretting making this decision ever since. But he thought that he needed to put up this exterior of the perfect family man and just lie his way through life. But as soon as he saw that everything is going to shit, he dropped the mask and allowed himself to do what he actually wanted all along. Cal is a great example of people that are still in the closet and some remain there for the rest of their lives. People that are living a lie because they are afraid and they think that they don't have a choice. He had his suspicions about messing up his sons, but he never knew how big of an impact his double life had on Nate. This story was one of the best parts of the season and has truly brought me back to life after the overwhelming boredom I felt throughout the season. Now, Maddie took the backseat this season. She didn't really have much of a story, apart from being dragged into a love triangle and that quite odd babysitting job that she had. I honestly was quite confused by the amount of tension she had with that middle-aged woman, and I was wondering where they were planning to take this. And again, nowhere. Maybe that's actually for the best. I think we had enough of uncomfortable relations between adults and underage characters. The sole purpose of Maddie this season, in most cases, is to drive the story forward. She has her babysitting side quest, but mostly is there to entertain the viewers with her reaction to the news about Cassie and Nate, and cry at gunpoint when Nate is being a complete weirdo and is scaring her into telling him where the disc is. Honestly, guys, this scene killed me. This is the most absurd and stupid scene in the show. Sam wanted to shock the viewers, but then decided to say JK last minute and make the whole scene meaningless. Nate literally says, "It's not loaded." I was joking. Okay, bye. Okay, bye? Dude, what the hell? Who wrote this? Okay, bye? This is how you end the scene. It is a great example of how Sam has an idea for an intense and heavy scene, but then doesn't know how to end it. So this is what we get. Same with the anticipation that we feel throughout the season, waiting for Maddie to find out about the affair. But then, all of the waiting was for nothing, because the way they handle the confrontation is absurd beyond belief. Maddie and Cassie run around for a while and then have the culmination of their conflict off screen. So we don't even get to see it. Everything that we have been waiting for happens off screen. So the viewers get left with the biggest blue balls in the history of Euphoria. All right, let me chill for a second. Okay, let's continue. I will quickly mention a few characters that got a chance to shine a little more this season before we get into the heavy stuff. I was really pleased to see Lexi's backstory this season and how much she actually holds herself back sometimes. Her story was relatable and her wholesome connection with Faz stole the hearts of many. I know that we all have been rooting for them, and their beautiful story was a breath of fresh air after all the toxic relationships in the show. Not everything made sense about the choices she was making. Like Faz beating the living crap out of Nate right in front of her eyes. Apparently, didn't change the way she sees him at all. And in the next episode, she just continues to be infatuated with him. Overall, it was nice seeing her character being explored more in this season, and it would be great to see more of her in season 3. Ethan also had his chance to shine this season. He was extremely rational during his conversation with Kat and her attempt at gaslighting him, even though the entire scene was complete trash. He was one of the few decent guys in the show, and his performance in the play was amazing. I honestly felt like Cassie's mom whilst rooting for him, because he was great. And now, let's get into the heavy stuff. I believe that the biggest flaws of the season were the two relationships that were front and center. It's the pairing of Cassie and Nate, and Jules and Rue. After watching season 2, I was very confused about why the creators of the show took this route and decided to pair Cassie and Nate this season. But after my friend told me about some rumors regarding the reason this could have happened, everything started to make more sense. Allegedly, the original story was supposed to include Nate getting together with Jules as a continuation of the story that was started in season 1. However, allegedly, Hunter Schafer and Jacob Elordi refused to film scenes together, and the creators had to rewrite the story to minimize the amount of scenes they had together. And although these are just rumors and the reason for their alleged falling out is unknown, these news clarify why this season really doesn't make any sense. The story between Nate and Jules really felt unfinished, and just by imagining Jules in place of Cassie this season, some things fall into place. This story would have made so much more sense and would benefit the exploration of Nate's character. Nate this season is all over the place. The heartbreaking scene he had with Cal in season 1 barely has an impact on him in season 2. Yes, his relationship with his father changes, and we see that this season. But what troubles me is that we don't see any character progression or even regression. Nate is stuck in the exact place he was in season 1. Most of the time, he's being used for shock value, like in the scene where he breaks into Maddie's place. Or for that love triangle that really doesn't make any sense, because there was no build-up for this change of heart. In season 1, he looked down on Cassie, and this season, right off the bat, he does a complete 180 and changes his mind. And the viewers weren't shocked because this was so unexpected. I personally just wasn't invested because it came out of nowhere and made no sense for the story. But I will give credit where credit is due. I really liked all the stories that were connected to Cal. And the only development that Nate made this season was in regards to his relationship with his father. We see more of how he is haunted by what he found out about his father when he was younger. This really messed him up, and we witnessed the implications of this event on his mental state. He has this deep-rooted resentment for his dad and also for himself, because deep down he knows that they are more alike than he wants to admit. This is exactly why he gets triggered by that joke that was made in the play, and he takes it personally, and why he wants to date the most feminine woman possible. It is because he is trying his best to repress the part of himself that really reminds him of his father. I was intrigued by seeing that he decided to call the police on Cal, although it came out of nowhere, and it will be interesting to see where they will take their relationship in season 3 and what consequences this decision will have. Nate is a really complex character that truly deserves better writing to do him justice. And no matter how much we might hate him for what he does, there is a lot to explore with him, and we really need to take this character further and use the potential that he has to tell a truly great story. To be honest, I am very confused by Cassie's character this season. There were some interesting topics that were covered, like her fixation on Nate and the need to be perfect for him, to a degree of losing herself in the process. But for the most part, I didn't really understand why this happened. It was clear that her mental state was deteriorating this season. But why? Is it because of the decision that she made in season 1? This could be a valid reason because making choices like that, especially for someone so young, could be extremely traumatizing. But there are no signs that this is why she acts the way she does in season 2. We see that something is wrong, but there is not even the slightest amount of explanation or some hints to why that is so. Some viewers have speculated that Cassie might have BPD, which makes her act the way she does. And I'm not a psychiatrist, so I will surely not be diagnosing anyone. And even if that is the case and she has borderline personality disorder, this again came out of nowhere. There must be signs of that in her backstory, which there aren't any. And of course, the events of the last few episodes in the first season could have impacted her more than we think, which in turn made her fall back into the pattern she knows so well and seek male approval. There were so many possibilities for where her story could have been taken, because a lot has been set up in season 1, but instead, they made her character grotesque and most times than not, unpleasant to watch. This story makes sense on paper, but in reality, it felt really forced, and the really important storylines are, so far, unfinished. They had so much more to explore with McKay's and Cassie's relationship and the implications her terminated pregnancy would have had on both of them. A decision like that is rarely easy and needed to be addressed in season 2, but like most other interesting storylines, was ignored and never returned to. Alright, let's talk about Jules now. I loved her character in season 1. Hunter Schafer is a great actress and definitely got her moment to shine in this special episode. The story about the struggles Jules was facing and her words about conquering femininity were compelling, and I couldn't wait to see where they were going to take this further. But her character arc has actually caused me the most amount of disappointment in season 2. They managed to take something so unique and engaging in season 1 and turned her into a background character that had one purpose in season 2. Her only purpose was to tell Rue's mom that her daughter relapsed and set in motion the events of episode 5. And all of the information that she shared with her therapist, and thus the audience, turned out to be completely irrelevant when she decided to start cheating on Rue with Elliot. This was so painful to watch because that completely ruined my perception of Jules. Why would she say that she is no longer interested in men to then 5 minutes later go and cheat on her girlfriend with a man? Nobody forced the writers to make Jules say what she did in therapy. But if they wanted Jules to have her affair with Elliot, why make her say that in the first place? This feels really messy, unreasonable, and just random, just like the rest of the season. Like, I get that Hunter and Dominic are dating, but this doesn't mean that they need to have a relationship on screen as well. The only impact that Jules had on this season was to cause frustration because of her irrational actions. And if we once again think about the alleged falling out between Hunter and Jacob, and how their stories might have been connected in some version of the script, it makes so much more sense. It really feels like there's something wrong this season. Things just seem off and nothing makes much sense. Events just happen and then nothing leads anywhere, leaving the viewers confused. But what does still make sense is Rue. It is clear that Rue might be the only character that Sam always knows how to write. Her story just works. Since the very first appearance in season 1 till the very end, Rue just works as the main protagonist, no matter how messy the rest of the show gets. Her story is very disturbing and painful to watch, but it is also very real for certain people. And although some viewers say that Euphoria is unrealistic and romanticizes addiction, I don't agree with that statement. What Rue is going through is a very real story that even some teens go through. And no matter how stylish the show makes her high look, it never romanticizes it. We see her being miserable so many times in the show, unable to stand up and having extreme withdrawals, as well as her heart almost stopping in the first episode of season 2. Euphoria shares an authentic experience of what a drug addict goes through, and it works because Sam writes from personal experience. The 5th episode of season 2 was so heartbreaking to watch. The extent that Rue is ready to go to get a fix and how many relationships she ruins in the process is tragic to witness. Zendaya still by far gives the best performance in the show. Just like her extraordinary performance in season 1 when she is crying outside of Fesco's place, her acting is amazing. And the emotional roller coaster we see her go through in episode 5 is insane. Euphoria definitely won the jackpot by getting her to play the main character. We have to get back to the bad stuff though. What really upset me is how they handled the relationship between Rue and Jules this season. They set up the conflict between these characters by the end of season 1, and it worked. We understood why Jules left and why Rue decided to stay and then relapsed. This event had weight, and it was intriguing to see how the writers were planning to resolve it in season 2, if they were planning to do that at all. I had some theories about how they were planning to go about it. None of them were even remotely close to what we actually got. Them reconnecting was so bizarre and didn't make any sense. Rue was hiding from Jules at the party and was trying to avoid her for quite a big portion of the episode. And when they finally met face to face at the campfire, Rue didn't want to talk and was quite cold with Jules. And it was understandable why she didn't want to welcome Jules back with open arms straight away. After this event, it felt like these two would be working on their relationship throughout the season. Or not. This felt really odd, and it didn't seem like the resolution that the characters deserved. It felt lazy and just seemed like the writers needed them back together for the season and didn't know how to resolve the conflict properly, so they did this instead. Their entire relationship this season felt forced and really weird. And don't get me wrong, I really wanted to see them together in season 1. However, this season, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. Well, him, for starters. Elliot felt like a really out-of-place character that was hanging out with both of them, and also was hooking up with Jules behind Rue's back. It felt like a real dick move on Jules' part, and seemed off after what she talked about in therapy. Nothing made sense about the three of them and just felt like a mess. It felt like all the drama between these three was created purely for ship culture, completely forgetting about reasonable character writing and all the character development that was set up before this season. I was really disappointed with how Jules was treated this season because Hunter Schafer really proved that she can act in the special episode. She was phenomenal, and I couldn't wait to see more of Jules this season. However, she was barely in it at all, and when she would appear, I just felt like I would rather not see her at all solely because of her behavior. Instead of this confusing storyline that was assigned to Jules this season, I would have loved to see them continue the exploration of what the special episode has set up for her character. The story sounded very promising and definitely had the potential to add more layers to her character and give more versatile representation for the LGBTQ+ community. And of course, I can't end the video without a conclusion. No matter how much I will support the actors, I can't tiptoe around the implication that their alleged refusal to shoot scenes together might have had on what has become of the script in the second season. I completely understand that actors can be uncomfortable with shooting certain scenes or spreading certain messages. However, it is their job, and refusing to do what the director is telling you has consequences. The alleged drama between the cast might have impacted the script so much that nothing made sense anymore, and the show just became nonsensical and fell apart right in front of our eyes. It was truly sad to see, because no matter how many problems the show had before, I truly liked it. Watching the first season really brought me so much joy, and I resonated with certain characters, which made me feel seen, and I really appreciate that. Well, I can't say that the season being a mess is completely the fault of the cast if the alleged reason is true, because the showrunner, director, and the writers approved the script, and everyone involved in bringing the show to life spent months shooting the season that just didn't work out. It has been announced that Euphoria has been renewed for season 3. However, the exact date is unknown. It is estimated that it might come out in 2025 at best, which is a long time because season 1 has been released in 2019 and season 2 in 2022. Season 2 was still quite popular with the audience, but it wasn't even close to the amount of attention season 1 got. So I am truly intrigued to see how season 3 will be welcomed by the audience when it will come out. In conclusion, I really hope that season 3 will finish all the storylines that season 2 has set up and will fix the flawed writing that became impossible to ignore in the latest season. There have been mentions about the possible time jump in the upcoming season, which might be an interesting change of pace that the show might benefit from. Or not. And now I will share my opinion of what I would prefer to see in season 3. I understand that a time jump might be interesting to see in the show. However, in my opinion, it would be a lazy excuse to not resolve the intriguing storylines that were left unfinished by the end of season 2. If we would just hear some of the characters retell what happened after the events of season 2, it would be extremely anticlimactic and just pointless. They have set up such tension in the last season, and we need to see the resolution ourselves, not just hear about it in season 3. I would love to see how Rue will deal with that debt that she has, and if Lori will actually try to find her and execute her threat, which would not be that interesting just to hear about as a retelling of the events that went down off-screen to catch the viewers up to speed. Unless, of course, it might take Lori many years to actually find Rue. But again, that is not very likely. I personally would prefer to continue the story after the events of season 2 and finish what this season has started. To see how Rue will deal with her extremely frightening situation that she got herself into. To see if we will see more of Jules' character and if she will finally get a proper story that she deserves. To see if Nate will visit his dad in prison and if he will ever accept that part of himself that he is trying so hard to hide. To get an explanation of Cassie's behavior in season 2. To finally get more context about who the hell Elliot is and what is his purpose in the show. As well as to see where they're planning to take Maddie's, Cal's, and Lexi's characters. To see if McKay will be back this season or if they will completely write him off the show forever. And of course, to finally give Gia some screen time because honest to God, she deserves it. I truly feel a deep connection with the show and hope that season 3 will be a nice surprise for all of those that were disappointed by season 2. I will definitely be making a video about season 3 to share my final thoughts about this fascinating show. It truly made a big impact on pop culture and was one of the most talked about shows for a while, so I still have hopes for season 3. I think there is still a chance to make the show better and bring back the magic that was present in the show in season 1. Thank you so much for watching. Share your thoughts about the second season of Euphoria in the comments, and let me know what your predictions about season 3 are. Which character's storyline you liked the most in season 2, and if you would like to see a time jump in season 3. Till next time.